Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen who have joined us on this Dr. Fundi channel via multiple social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and also via the Dr. Fundi website. Welcome. Today, we have an interesting interview or conversation in prospect. Today, we're talking about matters of the heart. Matters of the heart, no one is immune from challenges that have to do with the matters of the heart. Whether you are highly educated or not educated, come from a supportive family or family that doesn't support, issues of the heart, all of us at some point, we have gone through some challenges. And so today we have a special guest who is going to be sharing with us her personal journey with a situation that she got exposed to in the journey of finding love. And she got bent, by that situation. And it took her almost a decade to actually confront it and deal with it, decisively. All right. Now, our guest is Dr. Keitumetse Tumi Disemelo, who is a clinical psychologist. All right. She is a clinical psychologist. She obtained her undergrad, degree, BSc, majoring in psychology and physiology. And then went further, obtained a BSc honors in psychology from RAU. She also then went further and did MSc in clinical psychology. That was in 2005. And she qualified as a clinical psychologist at a very tender age of 23. We need to find out, when did she start school, Sounds like she started school at the age of 4.
I did.
And so she went into private practice, a year later in 2006. But she was not done, she's got this tendency. Every 7 years, she wants to improve her qualifications. So as much as she got her MSc in clinical psychology in 2005 at the age of 23. She then got an MBA, in 2012. That's like 7 years later. And then 7 years later, that is in 2019, that's 2 years ago, she then got her PhD in consulting psychology, all right, in clinical psychology, right? So she needs to tell us, what's this thing about 7 years? I know the issue of 7 years when people are talking about a 7 year itch, in relationships, in marriages, people start being itchy, in 7 years. I didn't know that even people who are academics, they've got a 7 year itch. I'm sure there's a postdoc qualification that's coming in 7 years from now. Right, so Dr. Tumi Disemelo, welcome to the Dr. Fundi channel.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fundi. What a wonderful welcome, and greetings to everyone watching.
Right. So we have a lot to talk about.
Definitely.
You came up with this book called Trapped in Love. By the way, it's one of the things that came 7 years after you got your MBA. So in 2019, you got a PhD, and you also, became an author of the book called Trapped in Love. We're gonna get to that, but before we get there, we just want to know the personality behind the PhD doctor. To me, others, they call you KT. You've got many names that people, they call you with. So yeah, to me, tell us a little bit about where you were born, the kind of family that you were born into, the kind of influences or values that you got from that upbringing, because we want to understand your anchor in relation to the issues that you faced later on when you became an adult. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, to not only talk about such a, a hectic topic, but to also just encourage people with my experience. That's always the goal. About me, I am from a town called Polokwane, formerly Petersburg. My parents are academics. They actually met years ago at the University of the North. Yes. And they settled there. But they're actually originally not from the Limpopo province. My mom is Tswana from Makapanstad. And then my father is actually Kimupulan. He's actually from where the three rondavels are originally. But he grew up in Soweto. They had moved to Soweto with his family. So in Polokwane, then my family, my parents are the only people actually that call Polokwane home amongst our relatives, and they settled there. And my dad got his PhD when I was born. That's in 1982. He's a nerd, the professor in zoology. And my mom has 2 master's degrees. And she is a clinical. I think.
You've got the 2 masters, the one in clinical psychology, and then the master's in business administration.
Definitely. And my mom is also, so both my parents are scientists. So my mom did actually mathematics, statistics, and she was also a teacher. So she only became a clinical psychologist in, I think, 1994 with her doctorate. Her doctorate she got in 1994. For the PhD. So my father growing up was always Prof. I thought it was his first name because when I was born, he was already Prof. When I was, old enough to understand, everybody called him Prof. So now my mom also became a professor later. So we've got 2 professors in the family. So I grew up in an academic family, and my parents always said to us, we don't have much, we don't know much, but what we do know is education. And that's what we are going to offer you, my kids. That's what we know. And fortunately, I think we make them proud. My older brother is a medical doctor who is a specialist. He's got a master's in anesthesiology, so he's an anesthesiologist. Beautiful. And then myself, the clinical psychologist. And then I'm followed by my brother, who's a chemical engineer, who also has an MBA, a master's. So actually in 2018, my parents had a celebration for us to honor us for all achieving our master's degrees.
Beautiful.
So they really value education. And fortunately, the partner, my husband, also fell into that. He's also a nerdy. So growing up, I've always been a nerd.
There was no way they were going to accept a guy who is lazy to burn, the midnight oil in that kind of family.
I know they were going to be okay. we would never know.
Well,
so growing up, I really thought the red gown was the normal until I studied at Rao. Until I had a picture of my older brother's graduation with my parents wearing the red gowns. And then I realized people's responses to the red gown that, it's not everybody's family who has this red gown. It actually is valued and it means something to a lot of people. Right. So
so growing up in that family of academics, high achievers, what other values were instilled in you guys besides the love for education?
I think more than anything is my parents being there, so they know, how you can be led astray. For example, when you are first time in varsity. So my mom had access to our results before we actually got. So she was that type of hands-on parent. So outside of that, we will get the support. She knew when I was writing a sub before I knew I had a sub or the date
Oh.
of the sub. So they were very supportive in that way, and continually about everything, especially when it comes to education. So we've never grew up wondering whether we were loved. I think from the word go, we knew we were loved, and my parents were there all the time for us in whatever.
So you guys, they taught you that love starts from within, starts from your family before you go looking for love outside.
Definitely. We never lacked. I think they showed us unconditional love. For everything. I mean, for even when we wanted to drop out, I remember my older brother, I don't know if you want me to say this, he wanted to drop medicine at some point, fourth year. My younger brother wanted to also become something else instead of doing engineering. And then because we strong in science, all of us, like I did a BSc, my mom did a BSc, the family are strong in sciences. So there was always that, balancing out of human love and human interaction, human relationships, plus also the scientific things.
Beautiful. So, I mean, when I look at your various profiles on LinkedIn and different places, they summarize you as somebody who's a clinical psychologist with an interest in sports psychology, all right? Because you were an athlete, you were a runner representing the Limpopo province at some point, and also you played netball representing that province of Limpopo. You also a life coach, you were a speaker, you were an author, you are an academic, you are an entrepreneur. Like, how do you juggle all of these things?
I think over the years, I have learned also, I think also being raised in the family we were raised in, we were told to pursue our passions. Of course, pulling a wrong education. So it's always, yes, I see you want to run, my child, but don't drop out of school. Bring that school along. My younger brother wanted to DJ. My parents are like, bring that, become a chemical engineer who DJs, like do that. So I think growing up, we were always told to pursue our passions. And because when you pursue that, and I saw it in my parents are very passionate about psychology. My mom is very passionate about training students, and not just psychology students, medical students, people in the health professions. They know, they know her in Polokwane, her passion. And my dad is passionate about zoology. So I think I'm able to balance it because I'm pursuing things I love. It's not a lot of work because it's my passion. It's my calling. Psychology is my calling. And even sports, I always say to people, the mind-body connection has always fascinated me. And therefore, doing this sports psychology allows me to do that.
All right.
Yes, so I'm able to balance somehow.
And you also have been teaching at various universities, teaching psychology, largely to health professions, people, undergrad, postgrad, medical students, social workers, different professions. And, it seems like you are following on mom's footsteps.
It was, she always says to me, I must tell people she didn't force me. So I want to reiterate that she did not force me. Yeah, but I sorry.
You just wanted to, to emulate her. She didn't force you. You just wanted to emulate her, and hopefully,
and it's also because of the passion she showed psychology. Because initially, I started doing a BSc because I wanted to do medicine, but when my older brother told me about cadavers, I changed my mind. And then I registered. I registered for a BSc because he's 3 years ahead of me. So I registered for BSc in optometry. That's why I ended up at RAW, and then I was doing the running as well. But when I was doing the first year, you also do psychology, right? In the first year of optometry, and I realized that I wanted to have a more what can I say? The interaction with the patient. I wanted to be at a different level. than what optometry was offering.
Yeah.
So then I think in the back of my mind, subconsciously, I was like, I actually want to do what my mom does. I want to have whatever passion she has for her clients and her work. I think I want that. I love that for me. So let me pursue that. Then I changed, without telling them, of course, afterwards, that then I changed to BSc Psychology and Human Physiology and Anatomy. So I just, so I didn't have to add another year. I just changed direction.
So doing that anatomy, you didn't have to deal with cadavers.
Fortunately, it's rats. So I was, it's rats and not full body cadavers. It's short term. So I managed.
Okay, lovely, lovely. So now, in South Africa, we've got a problem of national teams that are underperforming. And when we expect them, like at a semi-final stage or final stage, they choke. I mean, our cricket team always chokes. Now, as somebody who has an interest and skills in sports psychology, is there something that you think needs to be done to better prepare our national teams when it comes to the mindset? When we really expect them to do better, because they do well in group stages, but once it comes to when it really matters, they fail. Bafana, cricket, rugby is the only team that seems to be mentally strong.
Yeah, it's true. I think in South Africa, unfortunately, sports psychology is not appreciated as in other countries. For example, at the Health Profession Council of South Africa, it's not a category of registration. Therefore, a person like myself who's interested in it, I just have to self train, basically. Because it's my passion, and I'm hoping, but I'm always psychoeducating and approaching teams and trying to educate them about how sports psychology plays such a crucial role in teams. So I'm hoping I won't give up until sports psychology is really taken as seriously as it should in the country, and also people realizing the impact. And it's not just sports psychology alone. I think it's psychology as a whole. There's still so much stigma around, seeing a psychologist, because people deem that you're when you want to see. And you guys
are called shrinks, and you also call yourself a shrink on the socials, But anyway, there's something I picked up again as I was trying to prepare for this interview, that you are passionate about assisting clients to process and take charge of their mind and their journey, so that they can better experience life in spite of or despite challenges. Can you expand on that?
People underestimate the power of the mind. I work from the School of Thought of Cognitive Behavior Therapy, right? So I'm always about the mind. The mind, everything is in the mind, and meaning everything we think leads to feelings and it leads to actions. And people underestimate just how powerful the awareness of that and those underlying thoughts, and also overcoming them, how powerful it is. And I always say to people, the mind is actually almost our spirit being. Whatever it is that you are telling yourself is actually what you're telling your spirit being. And therefore, if you're saying to yourself, I'm useless, I'm useless, I'm useless, I'm useless, you end up actually believing that you are useless. And not only that, you start manifesting that reality that you are useless, and actually approach things as a person who is useless, because you've convinced yourself. So I really work on people starting to, I want people to reflect on their thoughts, what's going on within that self-talk, because the power is in overcoming that and taking charge of that.
All right. So with all the knowledge that you have, with all the experience that you have, with the family background, of a mother who is a guru on matters of psychology, all of that did not make you to be immune from, burning your fingers and getting some emotional scars, from a love situation. So you wrote a book let's talk about this book, because now that's the reason why you are here. For us to talk about your book, Trapped in Love. It's a 62-page A5, like pocket size type of book. It's meant to be thought-provoking memo on how people can overcome emotional abuse. You say you aim to encourage victims of emotional abuse, to normalize their experiences. You want to offer hope that one can survive and heal fully. And you make that in bold, heal fully, but there's a proviso that you come up with there. So, and also there's somewhere where you say no one is immune from emotional abuse. All right. And living a relationship that is toxic is just one part of dealing with the problem. But there's a second part that's even much more important, working on yourself, and where necessary, getting professional help so that you can heal fully. Again, heal fully. All right. And this book, you say it's targeted to those people who support victims of abuse, so that they can better understand, the victim challenges, why sometimes, despite the abuse, they find it difficult to live those kind of relationships. So I've just taken a few things here. So let's talk about this book. All right. Why? I've read a few things. Or maybe let's talk about the situation itself. Okay. How old were you when you got to this relationship? And it was a relationship of only 12 months. However, it seems to have caused a lot of, trouble. Let's talk about it.
Okay. All right. I was doing my first year of my first master's to become a clinical psychologist. So as I began that program, I then met this gentleman who I called Joe. And Joe was, within a few months, actually proposed, wanting to get married. And when he moved to another province to specialize, to become a psychiatrist, that's when actually the monster in him, I believe, came alive.
Let's go back a little bit.
Okay.
Let's go back a little bit. So, as a young lady, smart one, obviously there will be men coming to, approach you, to see if they can get you to be, their partner. So there must be some way of sifting, who do I allow in and who do I just tell, what, you're not my type. So at that point, did you have, a way of sifting besides the external looks? Did you have a way of sifting that this is the type of man I will allow into my life?
I believe at that time, obviously I had an ideal idea about what a relationship should be. And when Joe came into my life, he offered what seemed like some of the things that I needed in a relationship. And I mean, in my mind already, we were the power couple, the psychologist and the psychiatrist, with a very, successful practice.
And you're going to read each other's mind?
No. And it was like, he came with this idea that, we can have this relationship whereby he comes across as a reliable person who is church going, who is, from a sound family, who wants to, have a future with me. So, and he's calm, keeps to himself. So he came across as if this is someone who is very respectful, but also respected by everyone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I want us to move slowly, Doc, because I want our viewers to understand something. All right.
Mm,
Um, most of us as young people, well, I'm no longer
mm,
young anymore. We meet somebody, we look at, this guy, he looks
mm,
nice, and maybe he drives a nice car, and he's
mm,
got a good family background,
mm,
and you think, this is the guy.
mm,
Now, I also went through a similar situation where
mm,
I got into a relationship and I got married without
mm,
really knowing me
mm.
and my values, which is what
Yes,
I should be using to sift the people that come this way. So that's
definitely.
why I was asking you about this thing that most people get to commit into relationships and maybe even get married
Mm,
without having got to know themselves, the,
definitely.
their values, that which is core, non-negotiable, and those that you can. So at that time when you were meeting Joe, do you think you knew who Keitumetse is?
No,
What are the non-negotiable values? Because love goes up and down, but the values, is that cement that is likely to carry you through if there's alignment.
I think I did not know who. I mean, I was still 22. I was still developing my identity as a person and as a professional, but definitely post the relationship. Only post the relationship a decade later did I actually write down the qualities that are non-negotiable. But when
Yeah.
I met him in 2005, I did not know what I wanted. I just assumed that this person is genuine and they would want the best for us. And then obviously to find out that actually this person is not the best thing for me.
Yeah.
And so when I went into it, I just assumed it's genuine. And
Yeah.
because I came from also a background of a family where people are genuine. For
Yeah.
me, I've never seen people who would be abusive towards other people. And
Yeah.
also, you must understand abuse is always about control.
Yeah.
So the abuser always wants to have power over the victim all the time in whatever form or shape.
Yeah.
And what they would do then obviously is target your vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
So this guy studied me well and targeted my vulnerabilities so that I ended up almost feeling like I owe it to him. He's the only person who can actually tolerate me
Yeah.
as horrible as I am, because he ended up saying, that the uh, incongruent double bound messages he would give. So I
Yes.
ended up actually internalizing those and actually staying in this relationship because I felt like he was doing me a favor by being with me. So honestly, I did not know my worth at that time. I did not know who I was.
in one of
I
your
did not.
interviews in one of your interviews you talk about this concept of double bound messages, and you give
Definitely.
some examples just for the benefit of our people, who are watching,
Mm,
because this is something that's quite common with
yes,
abusers
yes,
to
yes.
to give you those double bound kind of messages, just for people who are not into psychology, just a simple
Mm.
example of that.
Okay. So with emotional abuse, as I said, actually with all types of abuse, it's always about control and disarming the victim so that the victim feels as if they are trapped, as if they have nowhere to go, as if the abuser is their only savior in the situation and there's no other person who can love the victim. And so in this disempowering you, they give you this double bound messages, which is like, I love you. And the very next minute they say, but you're useless, you're worthless. In my situation, I was also diagnosed with bipolar personality disorder. So I want to marry you. Let's get married. My parents are coming to your house. And immediately after hanging up the phone, calling me again to say, you're useless, you're worthless, you're this, you're this, you're this, you're full of this and this and this. So it's almost that confusing messages that are completely opposite and
Mm,
they don't make sense. And what these messages do usually, they cause so much conflict within the victim. They actually sometimes lead the victim to believe that they're losing touch with reality because nothing this abuser is saying is making sense. So you almost as a victim start doubting your whether you are in touch with reality, whether you're going a little bit crazy. And I think it becomes so poignant that it is almost disempowering. You feel like you feel helpless and powerless, which is the aim of the abuser for using such double bound messages in the first place, because they want to gain control over you.
So did you get to a point where you were actually controlled?
I believe to some extent, within, because the relationship was for me the whole 12 months. I believe at some point I kept on believing these things. I internalized and started to question whether maybe I do have, borderline personality disorder. Maybe I'm not aware. Mind you, cognitively, I knew I did not have the diagnosis. Cognitively, I had studied in my master's for clinical psychology, the criteria for diagnosis. So I knew cognitively I did not have this. But because I internalized it, that's how I was controlled, because I internalized everything that this person said about me towards me, even though it was not true. And I think also
in the book that was said to you on the face like that. Yeah. This is not stuff that is happening out there.
Yeah. And I think what makes it even more powerful is when the abuser will use things that are personal to you, to in an attempt to disarm you. So he would say, because you have tattoos, because you dress this way. That's how borderline personality disordered people actually dress. And then you start to wonder, what's wrong with my dress sense? What's wrong with these things that I have? What's wrong with my tattoos? And yet cognitively, as I said, the criteria for diagnosis, there's nothing about tattoos there. There's nothing about that. This is just this person touching on something I have personally. And the sad part is that after the relationship ended, after the 14-month, 12-month period, his voice remained in my mind for about until 2013. So he controlled me still from afar, even though I did not want him. His voice was there in my mind. When I saw my tattoos, I started to wonder, okay, maybe I must remove them. Hey, maybe,
Let's just go back a little bit, Doc. There's many types of abuse in relationships. Yeah?
Definitely.
Yeah. Can you just briefly tell us about the different types? Obviously, here you are already telling us that it was largely emotional abuse. So I want you to just give us a sense of the different types of abuse, and also the types of abusers out there, because not everybody is written on their face that this is an abuser. In fact, most of them, you will not, be able to identify them just like that this is a potential abuser.
Definitely. Well, the types of abuse, the list has been growing over the years, but I'll name a few. You've got emotional or psychological abuse, which is what I was explaining, the name calling, the attempt to control using, certain words towards the victim. And then you also get sexual or rape, whereby someone is forced into certain sexual situations or doing things they don't want to do. Technological nowadays, which can be stalking through technology. So someone actually stalks you on the phone, on internet, wherever, technology, using the phones or iPads, all these things that we have nowadays. You also then have physical abuse. I think that's the common one, where someone actually gets beaten. Financial, where someone actually withholds your for example, your paycheck or the money that you make in an attempt to control. And remember, it's always about trying to control you. There's also spiritual abuse, where someone prevents you from going to church or practicing religion, or they force you into practicing what you do not want to practice. Yes. So those I think are some of the categories that you find. And then the abusers, you don't actually see, it's not written on their face, as you say, but what you can look out for. So I always say to people that hurt people always hurt other people.
Yes.
So you find that abusers themselves have been abused, probably in the past, or they've had trauma in the past, or they've had pain in the past. And this is not to say that it's an excuse for them. I'm not saying it's okay to abuse. I'm saying that usually people with unprocessed pain or unprocessed hurt from the past tend to then internalize anger, and they take it out on victims such as their partners. And this can be either males or females. So abuse is not just a male abusing a female, or a female, being abused by only males. Females can also abuse other females. So abusers usually then just project their own insecurities. So they will project whatever it is that they are uncomfortable with onto the victim. So if they are unhappy and insecure, they will project that onto you always. I always say to people also, misery loves company. So abusers are miserable, and therefore they want the next person to be miserable. And therefore their attempt to control you, their attempt to, disempower you, their attempt to do whatever it is that they're doing towards you, is just to get you just as miserable as they are. And some of them are subtle, some of them are not aware.
Sorry.
Some of them some of them are not aware that they're being abusive. Some of them are deliberate about it. But abusers, whatever the content or the background, abuse is always wrong, and the victim should always be prioritized all the time.
Yes. So you were with this person for 12 months, or at most you were there about 14 months, right? Now, I just want to understand though, this guy engaged you around 3 months of the relationship, all right? Now, by that time, were you, already starting to have question marks about him as a person? At what point did you start to doubt, whether this is the right kind of relationship you wanted to be in?
I think there were always subtle, and I think there were always subtle indications that that there is something going on, underlying with him, because he would want me to not spend time with other people. So there was this subtle need to isolate me, which is typical of abusers. They don't want you to interact with your family. They don't like it when you interact with their friends or with your friends. They almost want to isolate you and make you feel bad, but they will bring you flowers and wine and dine you to also give you this confusing messages whereby you actually think that maybe they love me. Why are they spending so much time with me? So I think it was subtle indications, but they were not as prevalent when he moved to another province.
Yes. All right. So he wanted to get married to you. Did you involve the family already at that point? Yeah.
They had already started, they were supposed to come back, and I kept on postponing it. And I think at that time I was aware that there's something going on here, which I couldn't quite understand. So I kept on postponing, and I think that's what triggered him even more. So the more I postponed is the more he became verbally abusive. So the more I delayed is the more his reaction became even more abusive towards me. So then he would continually call me all sorts of names just because he is stressed by the fact that I keep on postponing the negotiations.
Do you think that he wanted to, get you married to him before you discover maybe the other side of him?
I don't know if he was conscious of his behavior or I don't know if he was conscious of, I don't know. I really don't know. But his behavior, I believe, came from a place of pain because of his history. I believe that. So so in his mind, his reality was that he wants to have a better life than where he comes from. But because he did not deal with the pain from the past, he kept on pushing me and wanting to force me to show me that he can have a better life with me than where he comes from in his family. So I think in his mind, he was pushing to have this ideal family at all costs, whether I'm happy or not. He just wanted to to move on and have his ideal family.
So you were aware of challenges in his either upbringing and stuff like that, stuff that happened to him prior to you guys being together. You know what I mean?
He verbalized. I was aware. I was aware of where I'm of view that he's quite angry. Unfortunately, he's not processing the anger, or he was angry at that time with something in his background, but he was not processing it the way he should be, or discussing it the way he should be, and hence he was projecting all that anger onto me, the innocent victim in all this. And I think that's why I was actually able to leave, because I realized that this person is not processing this, but it's not my place to help him process. Let me just leave him alone so that he sits there with his anger, and he will see what to do with it. But it's not my place to help him overcome it.
But you loved this man, right? And I'm just playing a devil's advocate, so I'm not judging you. Please don't take it in a negative way.
No problem. I understand.
So when you are in love, but at the same time there are these things that you don't particularly like about the person you are in love with, and so you are like, do I terminate this relationship, or do I give it a bit of time, hoping that he will change, or maybe I can help him change, or I can help. So did you go through an emotional turmoil, deciding about what should be happening to the relationship before you finally said, I am hurtful, enough is enough?
I think I realized that there was no way that he was going to be happy.
Yeah.
There was a day I realized that nothing I ever do will ever be good enough. Nothing I ever say will ever be good enough. Nothing I ever, try will ever be good enough. And I don't want to live a life whereby I'm continually this unhappy with this person who's unhappy. So I think it dawned on me the one day that actually this person, there's no pleasing this person. There's no end in sight of this thing that's going on. It's going to be like this forever if I stay here. And therefore I decided I don't want to be in this.
All right. So I'm just going to ask you another question again. Remember, I said I'm just playing a devil's advocate. Do you think he was, as somebody who came from a situation prior to meeting you, and obviously had a certain ideal kind of family that he wanted to build? Do you think the profile of the family that you came from, of academics, of professors, of high achievers, was an attraction? Yes, obviously he was attracted to you, but do you think he also wanted to be part of that, and maybe hoping that would help him, to maybe forget about whatever challenges that he went through in his own background?
It's always difficult to say, but maybe that's one of the probable hypotheses, that, he thought that there was something that, instead of saying, I like where you come from, I hope we can have this family. Instead, he's saying, marry me now. You're useless. Marry me now. You're useless. Marry me now. So I think also maybe that was a thing that he aspired to have, a genuine family, but he was not verbalizing that I want to have a genuine family. I'm hurt by my family or where I come from. Please help me navigate the pain I experience. So instead, it was an attack about my character, an attack about me. So I think in his inability to process whatever it is that he had to process from where he came from, he was projecting all the pain onto me as if I'm the source of the pain. And I think when I also realized that actually I'm not the source of this person's pain, and I'm not actually the solution as well. So let me remove myself from this situation, because I don't think this is what love is.
Yes. Now, again, I'm just going to use another example. There is somebody who married, somebody in my family, and looking where, okay, that relationship since ended, with one of my, sisters. Now, this person at times would use what you'd see as strengths of my family against my sister, almost like, oh, just because you think, just because you come from this family of academics, of achievers, and whatever, so you're looking down upon me or stuff like that. So your background, was it at any point used against you?
Definitely. I think it was always a projection of his own insecurities about what he didn't have. So it's always a projection of, but yeah, it's because you do this, because you have. But it wasn't to that extreme extent, but there was a projection definitely of his own insecurities, but not verbalized as I need this from you, but more as you are useless. How do you do this? And it was almost like, this insecurities and things that he had, that but not really being able to deal with them for himself, which caused actually the turmoil.
So, as an individual, before you maybe spoke to your family about the fact that this relationship is not working, what did you try to do, to try and deal with the challenges? Because at a certain point, you want to protect this relationship because you still think maybe something can come out of it. Even if the family members pick up certain things, you downplay them. So did you go through that kind of situation where you still thought maybe something can still be salvaged out of this thing, and then you get to a point where you say, you know what, I'm sitting down with my family, I'm gonna tell them that this is not working, and we take it from there. So yeah, did you go through that kind of thing?
There was intervention with a psychologist, and I think that's also one of the light bulb moments I had, because his reaction in the therapy was like, but what's happening? So that's when I actually made a decision that, okay, this is not worth it. I'm done. I'm okay, because of his reaction to what the psychologist was saying during the session. Because I mean, I could see, and I didn't need to be a trained psychologist to see what the psychologist was attempting to do during the therapy. But the way he was so defensive and aggressive during the session, and I think that's when it dawned on me that no, but this is something that cannot be saved. This is something that's done. It's finished.
Yes.
And I think that helped me in a way to actually let it go.
Now, there is a saying from other angles that we medical doctors, at times, our relationship with other teams of the healthcare profession, like clinical psychologists, when we are the patients, of shrinks, we're not the best patients. We have this superiority thing, and we don't want to open up about some of our things as you guys, take us through your CBTs and stuff like that. Do you think that there was that at play, the aggression and maybe undermining, or what? I'm just asking.
I think for me, it was just that he's not ready. When you're not ready to process whatever pain you have to process, I believe it was just not the time for him to process what was happening, and that's why he was being defensive. I don't know whether he was also looking down on the female. We didn't know the psychologist. Well, I didn't personally know them, so I don't know if that was at play. I can't say, but honestly speaking, I think this person was just not ready to process and go there. And it's okay sometimes to not want to go there. And that's what I said. It helped me realize that there's nothing worth fixing here.
Yes. Now there is also, and I'm just using a lot of generalization,
Of
to
course.
just try and get you to, share. There is, something that says, post 1994, South African men are struggling to deal with the empowerment of women. So dealing with an empowered, woman is a struggle, and sometimes we end up then being physical or abusive in other ways to control, because as you guys are being empowered by, we have not, been empowered to be able to deal with the empowered woman. Do you think there's any merit to something like that?
Definitely. I remember, just to give the example with the relationship, I bought a car post. So when I finished my first year and we were engaged, I bought a car at the end of the first year. So we met mid-year and then the year finished. So I bought a car and then I was to begin my community service the following year. And this person was so angry that I bought the car, but also because I bought it on my own, and also I did not give it to him to test drive. I just drove it. And yeah, so so to answer your question, maybe we do need to have sessions for men to work on,
to empower the men who feel disempowered.
Yes, because obviously and also society has socialized men and women to internalize certain things. So also coming from that, we cannot expect, honestly, that the men should just have this 360-degree change, but also not to excuse any abusive behavior from anyone. I think we also have to actually, as psychologists and mental health professionals, start actually working on people reflecting on their own internalized values, and to also how to adjust to what's happening in the world today. Because it doesn't help to sit there and hope that you get disempowered women or disempowered people to live with. We need to adjust to the situation and work through whatever trauma, whatever baggage, whatever values we might be carrying that actually are not working for us.
So how did you then deal with the pain? You've just mentioned now there was, a couple counseling that did not go very well. But how did you cope with what you were going through? Because here, you see, because other people are listening here and some may have similar experiences, not all of us have got the same or similar levels of coping mechanisms. At some point we are in denial, of what is happening. At some point you escape, to, dealing with the stress. At some point, and I mean, there are other things where you distract, and at some point, you seek professional help. So for you as Dr. Tumi, how did you cope with what you were going through before you took your final decision?
Okay. I actually made the decision to leave, and 12 it was about 14 months, I think, the relationship. So I made the decision to leave because I realized it's not going anywhere. But when I left, I actually was not coping. And I think that's the message I give people, that leaving is but the first step. So when I left, I wasn't coping. When I left, and I did not want the relationship, and I was very sure I did not. I wasn't coping. And leaving doesn't mean you're actually surviving. What
do you mean, Doc, when you're saying you were not coping? You were not okay?
No, I wasn't. When I left, his voice was still drumming in my head. I could still hear that borderline personality disorder diagnosis in his head. I went and I made an appointment to remove my tattoos surgically because of what he had said about my tattoos, even though I knew I did not want him. even though I knew I wasn't going to go back to the relationship, but his voice. And I had internalized a negative self-view. So I hated my skin. I wanted to wake up and be someone else because I had internalized such negativity about myself. So so when I left, I knew I did not want the relationship, but I was hurting at the core. I was trapped in my mind by this individual's voice. It haunted me almost. And therefore, because it was haunting me, it was difficult to have a genuine existence. It was difficult for many years until I made the decision to actually seek help. And that's what I also try to emphasize in Trapped in Love, the book, that when you leave, the victim needs to actually choose to work on self to actually survive. For me, when I left, there was no automatic miracle that led me to, me being healed. I actually had to work on the pain and the deep rooted pain. I had to work on it day by day. But I was in denial when I left that I'm actually hurting, because for me, it didn't make sense why I had allowed this individual to come into my life to cause such chaos. I was very hard on myself. So for about a decade, I was actually haunted by his voice. There was no psychology miracle, because I'm a psychologist, that the books I read led me to a place of healing. No, I was traumatized and in denial for about 10 years until until in 2013. So, and I think that's what the message I give also in the book, that leaving a relationship is only a first step. The victim has to choose to do the work on self, to work on that deep-seated pain so that they can have a better experience of life. And not working on it, you actually end up hurting yourself, hurting other people, hurt people, even though they were unfairly hurt other people. So even if you were abused, you are likely hurting your family members just because of the pain you're dealing with. You're probably more angry towards them. You are bitter. You are, throwing fire everywhere because you are so hurt. You could also be hurting yourself because of the pain.
And even if you meet another person, you may still be carrying, I'll call it the baggage, the fact that you have not worked within yourself. And there's a statement that you made that no new relationship can love you out of your pain.
Yes.
All right. The pain that you're experiencing. So some people move on into another relationship, hoping that they will just simply forget that which they went through, and the love they get from the next person would then, heal them out of that pain. I thought it was a powerful statement that you made. Can you just talk about that?
Yeah, no one can love you out of the pain you are feeling. You have to sit with that pain and process until the pain becomes less overwhelming and you work on it. So no new relationship. And even the supporters of the victims, they also must understand that they cannot make this victim see themselves as worthy. The victim themselves needs to do the work so that they see themselves as worthy of love and of a proper relationship. So sometimes the victims supporters of the victims would ask, why did you stay? This person was wrong. This person, man, they were talking rubbish when they were saying this about you. You are bigger than this. So the book also shows that, the reason why the victim is unable to hear you, it's because they need to tell themselves that. They need to love themselves out of the situation. And no new relationship or person outside can actually bring healing. The healing has to come from within. And I think that's the challenge, is that, I didn't call this abuse. You didn't call this abuse unto yourself. And yet it is your baby to make sure that you are okay. And sometimes I think victims always want the abuser to acknowledge or to say sorry. And, you spend your entire life waiting for this person to recognize what they did was wrong. And I always say, it's not about them, it's about you. They might never come to a place where they apologize, and it's okay. You need to work on whatever is going on within you and acknowledge it and work on it and love yourself, because otherwise you end up repeating the cycle of abuse, in that you find yourself now in a new relationship with the same abusive character from your past. So you find yourself in this repetitive abusive relationship, and you wonder, but why? So you always have to look within and do the work within to overcome such internalized pain.
Yes, you talk of you say heal, survive, to move on. In one of your interviews, you keep on saying heal first, survive, to be able to move on, having healed fully. Just talk about that concept in
It's
relation
exactly
to your
like,
situation. In relation
yeah,
to the story.
Leaving was a good step. The next step, though, is the conscious, deliberate choice to work on self so that one can heal. So you won't move on until you actually you work on self and heal. And once you heal, then you actually become a survivor. Because sometimes people expect you to be okay because you've left the relationship, or they expect that, no, but you're a survivor. And I always say, yes, it's good to aspire to be a survivor, but once you leave, you are still a victim who needs to learn how to survive, who needs to heal, so that you can move on and have healthy relationships and have healthy experiences of yourself. Because usually when you are in an abusive relationship, you even struggle to have peace along, when you're sitting by yourself, you struggle to have peace within. So it's important to, if you find yourself in that sort of relationship, yes, seek, assistance if you need, so that you can leave, but also so that you can survive and heal, so that you can move on.
And that healing is a journey. It's not an overnight thing. It's not an event. It can take time.
Definitely. And you look at my journey. I mean, I left 2000 and sorry, I can't remember, 2006. And when 2005, when I was starting my ComServe, when I left, I was not okay. But I did see a psychiatrist, and he did prescribe antidepressants, because at some level I knew I could feel that I'm struggling. Yeah. But I did not go deep into the extent of my pain. I superficially dealt with it. I drank the medication, and I tried to deal with it superficially, not going deep within. And it really, and his voice was still, haunting me in my ear. And and then I was admitted, and the same thing, I didn't go deep. So I only truly sat with the pain and recognized how deep the pain and the wound was in 2013. Yeah. And once I made that decision, I can attest that I saw healing almost, I saw the change of perspective about how I viewed myself. Because remember, in those years, I really did not like being me. Even though I was on the antidepressant, I still didn't like waking up as to me in the morning. So when in 2013 I decided, but I need to embrace Tumi. I'm going to be with Tumi for the rest of my life. So I got assistance to actually embrace Tumi as she was, with everything she came with. And just like that, I saw the 360 in me. And then I was able to move on and genuinely have a genuine relationship and actually be able to get married to someone who had the character traits that I knew I deserved, because I knew my worth as well.
Yeah, because I think that's the other thing I wanted us to talk. There is an upside to the internal work that you did, because you got to know who is Tumi better. You got to know why is Tumi here. You got to know, what is Tumi, able to tolerate. and what is it that you cannot tolerate, so that that person, you know, who was then gonna come to you and profess love to you, you now had a different set of spectacles, you know, that were grounded on you better understanding who Tumi is.
Definitely.
You know, and Tumi had dealt with her past, you know, effectively this time, so that you don't bring your issues. You know, you mentioned hurt people, yes, so that you don't bring your hurt to the relationship, and you now sit here, you've got a hubby who loves you, and you haven't brought issues, you know, and I'm sure you were much more careful this time in terms of, you know, sifting who you're gonna give your life to. Yeah?
Definitely, definitely. I always encourage people who want to meet people that be deliberate. You have to have that, and it's based on my learning, my lesson, my hard lesson that I learned, that you need to be deliberate about what it is you want in a partner, and do not compromise. Because the minute you have a list, and then he comes and he's got 4 out of 5, or she comes, she's got 4 out of 5, and you try to swingle, you find yourself compromising yourself 1/5 of the time in the relationship. And that leads to unhappiness. So when I got out of that, I knew the 5 traits I wanted, and I was not going to settle. And there were traits I believe did exist in a person. Because sometimes I think when you have a list, we almost talk ourselves out of saying the list is too hard, it's impossible. For example, there's stereotypes that no, men do this all the time, women do this all the time. And for me, I was very clear in my mind that there is nothing that can take me back to the dark place. Like I was not going to the dark place ever in my life. So therefore, because I knew the 5 things that are going to ensure that I remain whole and bring me joy, I did not compromise on them. And I always say, you know, society puts pressure on, you're old, no one will like you. I mean, they were saying you have degrees. I had registered a PhD, like, you know, so there were negativities, but I was clear in my mind that nothing in this world will take me back to that dark place. So I was not going to compromise. And I always say to people, you don't have to compromise yourself. You know, you don't have to go with society.
Let me ask you another question. Maybe it's a general question, Doc. Do you think us as men, all right, we struggle to date powerful women?
I can't generalize. I think it's always, if you've got insecurities, right, about powerful women or people who are educated, you need to, as a man or as a person, deal with those things. And I think I don't know if I can put a blanket, you know, title above all men, but I am of view that whatever insecurities you have, you need to deal with it. And if you don't deal with it, you will project it onto the next person. I always say our interactions are always projections. So it's not just men actually projecting their insecurities on women, but it's also women sometimes projecting their insecurities on other women. And then how it comes out is that now you're competitive. Now you want to nullify me because, you know, you're competing with me. So I'm in a competition I didn't know I signed up for. And, you know, and those emotions are quite powerful. Anger, pride, competitiveness, jealousy, you know, all those emotions. So, and insecurity. So it's always important to look within and to reflect. So whatever insecurity you have, deal with it. Otherwise, there's no you can't repress it. You're always gonna project it. It always comes out. It always finds a way to show its little head. So always, so whatever human being, male or female or whatever gender you are, you need to always be aware of self and look within. All those insecurities.
Let me just ask my support lady if there are any comments or any questions, you know, or in the last 20 minutes we're going to take 90 minutes. So we left with only 20 minutes. I just want to ask, you know, any of the viewers if they've got anything that they'd like to ask from you, Dr. Tumi, just about your journey or maybe your insights as a clinical psychologist, because
okay.
During this time of COVID, especially during lockdown, level 5, level 4, relationships that we thought were solid, cracks started appearing. Cracks started appearing, and then some relationships did not survive lockdown. The levels of divorce has gone up, the levels of GBV, they went up. So that's why I'm asking you that question.
With couples and relationships, I think prior to lockdown, I mean, people could have ways to escape.
Yeah.
Via work, hanging out with friends, not going home, working at the office late hours, going to another province, But with lockdown, it forced families to sit together as families and interact. In some families, it was for the first time. And sadly, some people also get into marriages for the wrong reason. And therefore, lockdown really put these things to the forefront. And some of the issues were also repressed or ignored or avoided. Now, lockdown, it almost forced people in the same space to reflect on their relationship that they have been avoiding or self-medicating themselves about.
Yeah.
So I think it almost was a pressure cooker for relationship lockdown. It almost like you're stuck in this thing where you must, suddenly now you must also make decisions. Do we leave? Do we stay? Do we fix? What do we do?
Yeah.
And so it's very important then when you get into relationships, to also ensure that people go for counseling.
Yeah.
And
right.
When I say
there's a question from one of our viewers.
Okay.
This is really just about the book. How does one get the book Trapped in Love?
Okay.
65-page A5 book, which you can read in, I saw some of the people who've reviewed your book. One night, they were able to read it through, and they were all giving a thumbs up to the book. So how does one get this book? Because matters of the heart are very, very, very difficult to deal with. Sometimes it's good to learn from those who have gone before you and experienced situations as a way of helping you to deal with your own situation. So can you talk about your book? How does one access it, and how much is it?
Okay, I am selling the book myself. So I am available at www.rebaone wellness. That's REBAONE wellness.com. So www.rebaonewellness.com. And all my details. And email it's tumi@rebaonewellness.com. So TUMI@REBAONE wellness.com. Rebaonewellness.com.
Right. So so if one wants to have that book, they can get it, via the website, or they can email you guys and then you send it through.
Yeah, the book is 150, but excluding delivery. So delivery starts at 60 Rand. Yeah. From 60 Rand to 100. And because it's such a tiny book, the delivery can get up. I can send 40 books in one delivery pack. Because it's that light, because I think the maximum is 5 kilograms. So the more you buy, the cheaper the delivery becomes. But it starts from 60 Rands via PEP or Postnet. So if anyone is interested, they can just drop me an email. The website also has my WhatsApp number. They can also send me details to order the book from me. So I'm selling them all myself.
Okay. Who is your target market? When you were writing this book, who did you want to buy this book? And now that it is out there, you know, now that it is out there, you know, because I saw somewhere where you were saying, even if you haven't had this kind of experience, but you could buy it to give it as a gift to others.
You know, when I wrote the book, I actually wrote the account of the experience immediately after leaving, because, you know, I really felt like I'm losing touch with reality. I needed to put these things down because so that, you know, I can recall. And then I for many years, it did not have an ending. And I believe it's because I wasn't okay yet. So for that's why it took so long to actually, for me in 2000 and 2019, that's when I actually wrote the concluding part, because I wrote it not just to tell my story, but to encourage people, to be the face of hope and healing. And I believe that for many years, because I wasn't healed, I had left, but I hadn't healed, I hadn't survived, I had nothing to share with the readers about how to actually overcome, because I was still trapped in my mind by this person's words. So it finally got an ending, and that's when we published it in 2019. And the target market is actually just victims of abuse, because they are threefold actually. So the first is the victims, because sometimes the victims are actually not aware of that they are being abused, especially emotional abuse. So to create that awareness and to normalize some of the things that are happening, to show them actually that you're not crazy, and to give them the hope that you can actually overcome and heal and be okay and have normal relationships. Take my example. And the second bit is also for the supporters. The supporters sometimes don't understand why the victims are struggling to leave. They don't understand the extent of the pain that the victims experience. So this book is also for supporters who can hopefully understand better the victims of abuse and some of the things that they struggle with. It's also hopefully miraculously aimed at the abusers themselves, hopefully, so that they can realize the extent of the pain that they cause, if you know, some of them are not aware. But it's actually just meant for anyone who is in relationships or who knows someone in relationships, and for couples, and for just education. Also, when you have children who might be going through something in relationships, to better understand them and to understand how to help them.
There's another question. There's another question from Wipelo Sibesho. I'm not sure if I'm actually pronouncing it well. How long did it take for you to start feeling like the old Tumi that you knew? And then, so wait, no, I'm not done. Then Buibelo says, I suffered from anxiety and I'm still recovering. Few days ago, I found myself wondering what it's going to take to be whole again.
Okay. For me, it sounds like Buipilo, I don't know if she's still attending therapy. It sounds like there's still work that needs to be done to complete her journey. So for my journey, from 2005 to 2013, I did not also feel whole, because I had not addressed fully everything. So in those years, I had internalized a negative view of self. And it sounds like Wepiro is still struggling with anxiety post a relationship. So if you're struggling with anxiety or a negative view of self, or whatever it is you're struggling with post leaving, sometimes it's an indication that there's still work to be done. Because whatever emotion you are experiencing, there's probably an internal cognitive process. There's internal self-talk happening. For Wipilo, for example, that's triggering the anxiety. So for me, it sounds like maybe there's still a few sessions that she might require. I don't know if she had seen someone professional, but it sounds like there's still a few sessions required. But I must say that when I did decide to tackle the internal negative view of self that I had internalized in 2013, it took a few sessions. It was honestly a few sessions, and suddenly I was myself again because I decided to go there. So we below, if also just making the decision to go there and actually seeking someone to help you, that actually you might just need a few sessions and you'll be okay. You overcome anxiety, because anxiety, remember, is also something that can be tackled with CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, and it can vanish, it can go. So I would advise that she maybe seek out help. There are also, free hospital services, mental health services that we can assist. But yeah, hopefully she does get the help to finalize her journey.
Yes. I'm going to ask you another question around role of spirituality. I'm not saying religion, spirituality,
Definitely.
which includes religion. So
Yes.
during this period of you battling this situation, did you at any point, leverage that side of you? I'm assuming that there is that part of you as well. Did you have to do? You talked about pharmacotherapy, that is the tablets that you were given by the psychiatrist at the early stages, but that did not necessarily address the problem because it was just pharmacotherapy alone. We normally hear about combined, intervention of pharmacotherapy and psychotherapy, preferably
Definitely.
from a clinical psychologist who can administer things like CBT. But then, I'm a family physician in terms of, a qualification, and we talk of holistic interventions, when we are dealing with patients. So biopsychosocial spiritual, is one of the things I believe in. So I'm trying to find out from you, being a clinical psychologist, it took you long to actually make use of the skill that you actually have, and when you eventually did, it made so much of a difference, right? Now, I'm just asking then about the other components. Social support, you already had social support, but through what you went through with the therapist, you also dealt with the relationship with self, because it's about the relationship with self and relationship with others. So it sounds like it was taken care of. So the other component of spirituality, did you at any point make use of that in your healing journey?
For me personally, during the 2005 to 2013, before I was okay, I sought my help. In those years, I did visit churches in those years, because I deemed that I needed some help, prayer or something. But honestly speaking, my because my mind was not okay. There was they were not able to assist me in I did not benefit in the way I wanted to benefit. But in 2013, when I began my journey or finalized my journey of healing, I actually encountered a person I call my spiritual mentor, who was able to actually assist me in learning about knowing who my creator is. Remember, in this relationship, I was told that I will amount to nothing, that I don't have a purpose, that I'm nobody. So when I met this lady in 2013, because I was ready to also understand my purpose, then that's when I actually, for myself, developed a relationship with my creator, which I'm truly grateful for. And that was also the importance, important in changing my perspective about myself. Because remember, I felt I had no worth. I had internalized that. I knew it wasn't real, but I internalized that. And only in 2013 did I then, learn about my creator. And actually, I know for sure now what it is I'm created for. Yes. So I don't know if that answers how I address the spirituality. So I got to learn about who my creator is.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
So another question. During all of this 10-year period, at least on the academic side, you were making progress, right?
And for me, that's great.
Can one say you actually adopted positive distraction as a way of coping, doing something positive to benefit self, whilst dealing with whatever the issue, because it's another coping mechanism.
Definitely. And going back to what you say about 777, 7 is a number for perfection. So I was perfecting certain areas of my life. Yeah. So for me, one of the coping strategies was register, and just keep improving. We'll see. Keep busy. And you can imagine at that time, I mean, I did not have my own family except my parents and my siblings. So for me, that's what helped me. And, I think my Creator's grace really covered me, because I managed to pass, because you can imagine having such deep-seated pain, and yet you're writing exams, you're doing an MBA, but I managed to actually pass. And even with the PhD as well, I managed to register it and begin the process and pass.
Yes. Okay. All right. So this past week, we had an announcement by one of the richest people in the world, Bill Gates and Melinda Gates, that they are calling it quits. I mean, the whole world was like, we thought when you've got money and tons of money, you can't have relationship problems. So now that the richest couple in the world, have announced that with all the money that they have, things are not working. They will still continue working in their foundation, but as a couple, they're not going to work as a husband and wife. Now, there is that, sense that, things can be solved by money. So I wanted you to just give me your take around, because some relationships, they fall because of money issues. Some fall because of, let's say, I'm talking about marriages now, in-laws issues. Others, there are other reasons. So money and relationships.
For me, I always say to people, list the character traits of the person you want to spend your life with, let's say in a marriage, or the person you want to have a long-term relationship with. And those things, please rather focus on character traits, because what happens then when there's no money, right? What happens when, because I see nowadays it's tall, dark, and handsome, yellow bone, church going, money, rich, drives this. And I always say to people, if you want a long-term relationship, list the character traits, and I'm talking personality traits that you want in a person, in the other person that you're going to have a relationship with. Because
what are you talking about? Can you simplify what you're talking about in terms of what
the character
examples of character traits?
Okay. So, for example, someone who is genuine, right? Genuine and honest. And I know it sounds like, but people must be genuine and honest. But honestly speaking, some people are not genuine and honest. Some people, they will come to you and they will not be genuine and honest. And if it's a deal breaker for you, why compromise? All right. Some is respect. So things like, please do not cheat on me. And then there's society with this idea that people always cheat. And it's always like, no.
In the petty language, there's something about munnakisilebe, Have you heard that phrase?
I don't know.
Have you heard the phrase though? I'm not saying you believe in it. I'm just saying, have you heard about it? That a man is X and it must be said.
So the problem comes, some people are okay with it, but if it's a deal breaker for you, it means that you will always be unhappy in the relationship, right? So if it's one of the character, if it means someone disrespects you if they do it, right? It means it's a character trait this person does not have. Therefore, you are going to be miserable. You're going to compromise yourself. So authenticity is also, and being secure in your own skin, you know, not having issues, not having other issues that, you know, need psychologists. And not to say a person must be perfect. I always say to people, you need to reflect on what is your deal breakers, so that you understand what it is that you want. And therefore, if someone comes with 4 out of 5 of those things, understand that if you go with them 1/5 of the time in that relationship, you always be unhappy. I mean, it's the math. And if the person comes with, even if it's 3 out of 5, it means 2/5 of the time you always be unhappy in that relationship. And going back to the money issue, money is important. But if people are on the same page and people are in the marriage for the right reasons, when money, for example, becomes problematic, then, you know, people will still remain. They will be stressed, but they will still be on the same page. It's not about, but you've lied anyway. You are dishonest about 1, 2, and 3. Because the problem is, if money is a problem and people were already not compatible or not on the same page, so the problems will be not just about money. It will trigger all the other things, you know, that they've been happening, because they're not compatible. So compatibility is important.
Yes. Now, last words from you. To people who are maybe still within relationships and they are suffering abuse, or to those who recognize that I've reached the end of my tolerance of the abuse and I want out, to those who've already left but are still hearing, you know, what, you know, you were hearing, basically, can you just say something to, you know, to encourage and give hope, and also just give them, you know, just tips and when to seek help?
Okay. Well, you know, abuse is wrong in whatever form it comes, and just because it happened to you does not necessarily mean that you deserved it or you are weak. To all the victims out there, you know, and you can actually become a survivor. You can actually overcome. You can actually do the work. There is help out there. You don't have to do it on your own. You know, there is help in the public sectors. I know people you don't have to pay anything in the public health sector. There's psychologists in the public health sector. There's different professionals in the private sector and the public sector as well. So there is help out there. So it's never too late to begin to love yourself again and to heal and to survive. Because sometimes I think people think, because I've been in this relationship for so long, it's too late for me to actually leave and have and enjoy my life. So I'm here to say that it's never too late to actually begin again, to heal and to become what it is you are meant to become in this life, and to love yourself again and to actually survive and heal.
Yeah.
So do seek help out there. There is help available.
All right. Thank you very much. As we wrap up, there is, you know, one of the quotations from Rumi that says, "Love has inflicted so many pains on me, but that's how my life became blessed." So, you know, for me, that says, whilst there is the downside, but if you do the homework, if you do the inner work, actually you could see a blessing in your, you know, misfortune or situation that
Definitely.
you know is not you know easy to deal with. So with those words, I just want to say thank you, Dr. Tumi. I appreciate your time. I hope your friends, your followers, and other people who are regulars on this channel have been able to pick up 1 or 2 things, because none of us can say we are in perfect situations. There will be challenges from time to time, and it's always good to learn from the experiences of others. And if anything that has come out of this 90 minutes is that if things don't work out, there is still hope that you could take yourself out of that situation, be assisted, and you can start afresh, provided you have fully healed. And that, to me, is the message. There is life after, a bad relationship. You don't have to stay in a bad relationship, because you worried that, but what are people going to say? Because we don't want you to come out as a body bag, or whether because you committed suicide or something else took place. So the point is, relationships are a source of stress. Sometimes it can reach a point where you can no longer cope with that stress and may lead to a mental illness. And so recognize when you are highly stressed, seek professional help if your coping mechanisms are no longer able to deal with the situation. Get professional help. There are psychologists out there, and they are trained to assist, as Dr. Tumi did, after a long period of not practicing what she preaches. All right, but thank you very much to everybody who connected. Thank you, Dr. Tumi. I will send you the link to this recording so that those people that would like to watch it again, you can be able to share it with them. Otherwise, it's on the Dr. Fundi YouTube channel. So anybody who wants to watch it, they can also go there as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to your viewers. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much.